Every pony down in Ponyville liked Hearths Warming Eve a lot. But Starlight Glimmer, the newest member of the main 6, or main 7, did not. That's right, it's another Hearths Warming Eve episode. I was thinking that Hearthbreakers was too early for a holiday episode, but turns out this one comes in 7 months later, and even though it's way too early for a Christmas special, this might be one of my favorite Hearths Warming Eve episode ever. Why? Because Mike Vogel, despite the fact that this is his own first episode that he's writing alone, this possibly might be the most fun I've had with an episode all season. Because, just like Pinkie Pride, just like Crusaders of the Lost Mark, and just like Magical Mystery Cure, it is a musical episode. So why don't I start with the songs? The songs in this episode are so fun to listen to. It's like listening to all those classic Christmas carols that you all know from your childhood. Well, if you celebrate Christmas. And it's, even though I can't really pick a favorite song right now, each one was so much fun to listen to, and when Christmas rolls around, I've got to play all of these songs for my family in between our traditions of watching How the Grinch Stole Christmas and A Christmas Carol. Speaking of which, this episode's story reminds me a lot of A Christmas Carol, as it's basically the My Little Pony equivalent of it. The story here is that Starlight Glimmer isn't really feeling like she's in the holiday spirit, so Twilight decides to read her favorite Hearths Warming Eve story, known as A Hearths Warming Tale. Ironically, it's also the title of this episode, where we see every single member of the main cast, well, not every member of the main cast, but most of them play as characters from the classic Christmas Carol story, but told from an MLP perspective, where our Ebenezer Scrooge is I believe, Snowfall Frost, and she's played by Starlight Glimmer, aka Kelly Sheridan. And Snowfall Frost hates the holidays and decides to cover the entire land in snow due to her summoning Wendigos. That is, until the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and yet to come try to show her that Christmas doesn't come from a store. Sometimes it's about a little bit more. Yes, I referenced the Grinch, because her actions do sort of remind me of the Grinch as well. And I know if you've seen A Christmas Carol or How the Grinch Stole Christmas, this plot will seem very, very familiar with you. And yes, it does fit all the familiar story beats. But the way it's told, through seamlessly blending these MLP characters with the Christmas Carol characters, reminds me of a Muppet Christmas Carol. And in a similar fashion, it took such a simple concept of replacing all the classic Charles Dickens characters with Muppets, or in this case, replacing all the Charles Dickens characters with MLP characters, and just having the entire episode revolve around that. And that's where the episode really shines. It does it seamlessly, and it still has MLP's classic brand of humor, classic musical numbers, and it still has the tone that you'd expect from a Christmas Carol-themed episode. Starlight Glimmer really surprised me when it came to how much character development her version of Ebenezer Scrooge and she had through this episode. But then again, when it comes to musical episodes, I guess character development is part of the deal throughout the musical numbers. And having Applejack be the ghost of Christmas past, and having Pinkie Pie being the ghost of Hearths Warming present, and having Princess Luna as the ghost of Hearth Warming yet to come was absolutely brilliant. Michael Vogel should be very proud of himself. I mean, I was just blown away by how well they translated the Christmas Carol into the MLP universe in this fashion. Not to mention, the animation is also very well done, as expected from an episode of this caliber. And whether it's the fun Hearths Warming decorations that you see around Twilight's castle, to the Charles Dickens inspired, world that we go into through Twilight's storybook, it makes it possibly one of the most visually striking episodes of the season as well. And as expected from a Christmas Carol-themed episode, it's filled with a bunch of tension, fun, and eventually even despair. I was almost expecting Princess Luna to create a coffin, try to push Starlight in, and for her to yell, "Ouchie!" Just like the Disney Christmas Carol. Naturally, that didn't happen, but I would have liked it if that was the case. And yes, I've seen a bajillion versions of A Christmas Carol. The Alastair Sim version, the George C. Scott version, the Muppet version, the Disney version. I've seen a bunch. But in my opinion, this one fits right alongside those, as it fits well into both the universe that it belongs to, MLP, and with the Charles Dickens Christmas Carol. I don't know what Charles Dickens would think of this episode if he ever saw it, but I think he'd appreciate the fact that the spirit and the message of A Christmas Carol are intact. Yeah, speaking of the message is sort of the same thing as it was in A Christmas Carol. Christmas doesn't come from a store. It's more about celebrating the people around you, or the ponies around you. So, in the words of Tiny Tim, Celestia bless us, every pony. Since Tiny Tim was played by Featherweight, I guess that makes sense. So, Mike Vogel, this will be a first for the season. I am giving A Hearths Warming Tale a perfect 10 out of 10. Happy Hearths Warming. Even though it really should have come a lot later than this.